Welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 1007 Preservation Evoker nerfs. Some buffs in there too, but mainly talk about what are the changes, how is this going to affect our playstyle in Mythic Plus specifically, and then how I think this might affect the meta moving forward in this patch. So here are the patch notes right here. The major nerfs, as you can see, are right here at the bottom. When Lifebind and Golden Hour are applied through a lower value echo, its healing value is reduced to match the value of the echo. Now, this isn't actually 100% accurate. What's actually happening is Lifebind and Golden Hour are now proportional to the applied echo. That's actually a small buff for your manually applied echoes because those do 105% of the duplicated healing. So when you're triage healing with echo reversion, you're technically going to be doing more healing in the upcoming patch. So temporal anomalies absorption is also reduced. And you only get 4 echoes instead of 6. So that's not as large of a nerf in Mythic Plus, obviously. It's because it's only going from 5 down to 4. It still is a nerf. Don't get me wrong. These are fairly substantial nerfs, and it is going to affect our playstyle in Mythic Plus. Now, let's get a little bit into how it's going to affect our playstyle. So right now, there's a few different ways of healing. So you've got the triage healing, which is mostly echo reversion. You've got Verdant Embrace in there as well. Verdant Embrace is generally used to set up a Lifebind combo. So first things first, I think to understand how our kit's going to be affected and how the playstyle is going to be affected, I think it's good to kind of look at how has the Evoker been played for the whole season. So starting out in the season before the Temporal Anomaly buffs, a lot of Evokers, including some of the top Evokers, were simply playing around the Lifebind combos with Verdant Embrace. We weren't even running Temporal Anomaly, and then just manually applying echoes. So kind of haste was a little bit more important. Saving some of your essence burst procs for echoes was more important, and the damage wasn't quite as high. We moved into this temporal anomaly playstyle, and then once we did that, you're getting the shields from temporal anomaly, which is really good, especially in like high tyrannical keys. And essence became much less valuable because you were getting 5 applications of echo, and Golden Hour and Lifebind were not scaling down with those lower echoes. So you could throw out a temporal anomaly, you could immediately hit Verdant Embrace, and you'd have 40% of shared healing for anything that you're going to cast. So it made us a little lazy with our setups because you literally had a one global setup. You could just shoot a temporal anomaly right into your party, and bam, you were ready to go. You could Verdant Embrace, you could do massive healing with Dream Breath, with Spirit Bloom. So what this did is this, because Essence wasn't as important, start playing this energy loop thing where mana becomes more important because temporal anomaly costs a lot of mana. So essence was being used on Disintegrate. You were getting a lot of mana back with energy loop, doing a lot of damage there, and the kit felt very responsive and very dynamic, right? You could do a lot of different things with that. You could do the Golden Hour healing again at full percentage. So that is what's changing. So what you're looking at now is my 1005 just kind of base healing setup. This is a more aggressive build. You obviously have the damage here of Life Force Mender. And you've got this energy loop, which combined with natural convergence, it's a very good kind of DPS combo. You're doing a lot of disintegrates and that kind of thing. So what do I think is going to change in 1007? First of all, I can't predict the future, but where are we going to struggle? And how can we offset that? So what I do on Tyrannical Herja is I commit my stasis to the first and third storms, and then the one in the middle, I will do Emerald Communion ramp. So what you can do instead of that temporal anomaly for the echoes is throw out temporal anomaly with a reversion, and then manually apply echoes to anyone who needs it, and then do your Verdant Embrace Emerald Communion combo with that. It requires more setup. It requires you to be more diligent with your essence. And it will be a DPS loss, but healing those highest check fights will still be possible and might actually be a little bit stronger if you're willing to sacrifice the DPS and potentially sacrifice a few skills in the process. So yes, it's still a nerf. Are we still going to be able to heal the highest content? I believe the answer is yes, only time will tell. So how are you going to get there? Another thing to keep in mind is most people are running Dreamwalker, which is a very nice quality of life thing to have, being able to move. But if you're really struggling to meet those HPS checks, you can still transition over to Rush Vitality and get 20% extra healing out of your Emerald Communion. So you can kind of offset some of that decreased Emerald Communion transfer by just making it heal for 20% more. So I think there's going to be some situations where this is going to be really good. Immediately what comes to mind is like not good offensive, Tyrannical for that third boss, because having the extra 20% health is actually a defensive as well, because you cannot Zephyr the third boss. Avoidance does not work. It is a massive hit. The only things that work are damage reduction, magic damage reduction. So like I will take 2 points in inherent resistance when I go in there, and versatility. So things like that. Yeah. So anyway, how is this going to change? I think you might see people going back to innate magic to get more essence regeneration. I think you might see people dropping energy loop, potentially. Although the thing about energy loop is you kind of have to get down to stasis anyway. So you can reduce the time on rewind. Now I know a lot of people play with this talent. I never have, simply because there's very rarely a situation where I need a second rewind, if that makes sense. Like, generally speaking, I'm saving rewind for a moment where I really, really need the healing, like an emergency moment, or it's planned in a specific tyrannical fight at a specific time. And those fights just don't go long enough, generally speaking, for me to get an extra use with a 3-minute cooldown instead of a 4-minute cooldown. Now, I'm not saying don't play Temporal Artificer, but I just don't get a whole lot of value at it. I think Time of Need is underrated for, especially in non-coordinated groups like Pug scenarios. So maybe picking this up. But again, it's just all going to come down to how many times are we going to be casting Temporal Anomaly? Is mana going to be an issue? And do we need that extra damage from Disintegrate? Are we going to be able to cast Disintegrate with our Essence? I think we're going to be moving, because there's going to be more pressure on our Essence, you're going to be casting fewer and fewer Disintegrates, leaning more into your Living Flame for your single target damage, and fewer Temporal Anomalies, more Essence from just manual echoes. So I don't know, that might go away. The other big point pickup that I think might be on the table is picking up Power Nexus. So if you're going to be picking up Power Nexus and going down this path, the question becomes, is the HPS loss enough to necessitate dropping Life Force Mender and going into Renewing Breath? Or, I mean, there is a world where Temporal Anomaly gets dropped completely, and I know people have been talking about those Dormu's teachings. Maybe, but I just don't see this happening because, again, you get so much value with Resonating Spheres just getting out reversions for that buff. Now, maybe, and again, can't predict the future, just looking at what are the stressors on the kit based on these nerfs, there might be a world where you do drop this completely, you're not leaning as much into reversion, and then Grace Period becomes less valuable. I don't see that happening, though. But again, I'm just kind of throwing out all the different options there of how this might go down. So how do I think this is going to shape the meta? I think you're going to still see a lot of Evokers finish the season out top spots, or at least in the top 10. Again, this is a significant nerf, but at this point in the season, there's not that much time left in the season. Preservation Evoker and Resto Druids are already very close, and it kind of depends on, do you need the battle res? Do you need the lust? And I think that will still be the decision point. How is this going to affect pugging? I don't know. We'll have to see. But again, are you still going to be able, like the content that you're healing now, you will still be able to heal. It may just take a little bit more effort to get the right essences out, get the right echoes out and preserving your essence a little bit more. So, I think we'll see a few more druids move into like the top 10 on the leaderboards, but I still think you'll see evokers finishing out in the top 10 because I think people are committed to their characters this late in the season. It's a lot of work to start pushing on a different character, but a lot of the really top teams, they already have prepped characters for all the healers. So, you might see a few spots kind of shake up here and there, but we don't have that much time left in the patch anyway. So if you're thinking, I want to re-roll, I want to get off my evoker, I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to meet my goals in keys, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think you're going to be just fine. Just keep an eye on the playstyle shift, watch some high-level streamers, and see if they're changing anything up, and just figure out as you're playing the game, what kind of HPS checks can I not meet? What do I have to change to meet those? So that's what I've got, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, want to see more like it, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing a lot more Mythic Plus content. I'll be doing a lot of Diablo 4 content once that comes out. That's looking like a lot of fun. Hopefully I'll have a video for that. Have a great day, guys. Good luck in keys, and I'll see you next time.